Today was Judgment Day when it came to contraception coverage. If you weren't paying attention, the Hobby Lobby case was finally adjudicated by the Supreme Court. In effect, Hobby Lobby and some other for-profit religious corporations said that they didn't want to have to comply with the Affordable Care Act's requirement that if they're going to have employer-based health care, they have to provide coverage for contraception, including birth control. Now, I have a lot of thoughts about this. Obviously, my initial reaction is anger and a bit of shock because some of the Supreme Court rulings of the past couple of weeks have actually been pretty reasonable. They sort of allowed the EPA to continue regulating carbon. A few of the other cases, they didn't go as overly sort of knee-jerk conservative as they could have. But today, not only did we have Hobby Lobby, but we also had an anti-union case ruled in favor of people who hate unions in America. But let's talk about the Hobby Lobby. So some extremist conservative Christians in America are going to see this as a victory, although even for them, it's not as big a victory as it could have been. After all, in the ruling, Alito says that this is just intended to apply to covering contraception, and it doesn't mean that you can just knock down any law that applies to a corporation by saying that it violates their religious beliefs or religious views or religious opinions, however you want to term it. So for them, it's not the biggest victory ever. And I have to think that if you're a Christian in America, you should feel betrayed by this because, in effect, your religion and your religious values are being co-opted by people who just want to make more money. They don't want to have to pay for this. I don't think they're actually going to save much money in the end, but they think that they will. As I said, most Christians in America think that corporations, if they're going to have employer-based healthcare, should be covering contraception because they're not lunatics. And it's not like the myth that they're trying to perpetrate is that they have to pay for the contraception, as if they're going to have to sign off for every packet of condoms or birth control that's purchased. But that's not how it works. No, it's just that as part of a larger healthcare plan, it will also pay for things like birth control. They're not going to actually see the expenses. They're going to have no idea who's actually getting that from their healthcare. They just don't like the idea that it's happening somehow, somewhere. And understand that they were saying they don't want their religious views to be infringed upon by the government, but yours are right now because of this ruling. If you are an American taxpayer, you are now going to be paying to subsidize their employer health care at Hobby Lobby and other corporations like that now will have to fit with their narrow religious views. You're going to be paying to subsidize that. After all, they could have just not provided the healthcare through their corporation, but they want that government money, the government money that you are paying with your tax dollars. And I do think it's ironic. I tweeted something to this effect this morning that we've been told for years now that we should be worried about Sharia law in America. We know that that's ridiculous. We know that Islamic law is not going to be instituted across America, certainly not in the Supreme Court. And yet we saw that some version of Christian theocracy did reign supreme court, that is, today, because the views of one particular religion in one particular area covering birth control is now law. You can't force them to do that. But other religions, I'm sure you could think of all sorts of things that Buddhists would like to not have to comply with, or Hindus, or Muslims, or Jains, or Shinto, or followers of any number of different religions, both real and imagined. Perhaps as a pastafarian, I don't want to have a non-pasta option at some sort of company picnic that I have. Maybe as a follower of Thor, I think that if you're going to work, you only get one tool, the hammer. Make the most of it that you can. It's ridiculous. And it's incredibly ridiculous that Alito thinks that he can just say with the other conservative Supreme Court justices that it makes perfect sense to limit it to just this one thing, and that makes sense with what we know about the Constitution. It simply doesn't. Go the whole way if you're going to do anything at all. It just is narrowly tailored to help out Christians in America in this particular case. And it doesn't make any sense. Look up Ginsburg's response to it. She had some great arguments against it. And look, it might be that maybe this gets reversed down the line when we have a more rational court that better reflects the actual moral and religious views of the country as it continues to evolve on issues like this. I mean, this is so 1960s. This is like the condom Supreme Court case from Connecticut. But this is what we have for now. This is the big Supreme Court news of the day. Buried underneath it, of course, is cutting down on the union's ability to get money from certain types of public sector employees. But this is the big news for the day. It's massively depressing after a couple of weeks where we've dodged some bullets with the Supreme Court. But this is what we've got. I don't know exactly what we do going forward. Hope that the country continues to move in a more secular, or at least more tolerant stance, and hope that the Supreme Court will catch up with the country at some point.